Welcome back. You're still tuned into Trading Hour. Well, China has slashed rebates on key components including solar panels, solar modules, and the export rebate cut has been from 13% to 9%, which will be applicable from December 1. What does it mean for Indian solar companies? Will they have to pay more for such items? Will it increase costs for them and the related components as well? To discuss the impact of this, we are now joined by Saurabh Agarwal, tax partner at EVA India, and Sabyasachi Majumdar, senior director at Care Ratings, joining us now. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so much for joining in. Mr. Agarwal, let me start with you first up. Can you give us a sense of what has led to the sharp cut in export rebate? And is there a possibility more cuts would happen? And what is the impact that we're seeing on the industry?
Look at over a period of time, all these export rebates have to go away because end of the day, the industry has to survive without these export rebates being into the picture. What I think China has done is that they have reduced the export rebate from 13 to 9% on cell, module, glass. And if you look at some of the other components, which is say some of the aluminum components and copper wire components, they have reduced the rebate from 13% to 0%. This in turn entails that the price for all these components and cell and module will likely increase. Even for the existing contracts, it will increase. Effectively, what China is doing is that they are going into stabilizing the things now by way of ensuring that they are not passing on too much of the rebate into the market and ensuring that the market is determining the right prices. This is good for the industry in India as well, because when we look from a competition standpoint, from a China perspective, now that the price will increase, the Indian manufacturers in turn will also be able to have a competitive advantage in this particular case.
Okay, sure. Mr. Majumdar, let me bring in your point of view as well on this one. So what are you expecting in terms of specific products or entire value chain? What is the impact that we're watching out for right now? Like Mr. Agarwal said, obviously these rebates at one point of time have to go away. But currently, what is the impact that we're watching out for here?
So basically, right now, we have this ALMM regime in the country where, the modules largely have to be domestically manufactured for a large part of the total, output is covered under ALMM. Eventually, the government's plan is to move to ALCM also, where not only modules, but cells will also have to be manufactured largely in-house. Now, if you look at the current impact, this, change in rebate from 13 to 9%, that would result in a increase in price at the module level of about 2 to 4 cents per watt peak. In terms of tariffs, it means for every 1 cent increase in module prices is roughly about 6 to 7 paisa increase in tariff. So it would result in a increase in tariff from anywhere between 12 to maybe 28 paisa. That is the ballpark range we are talking about. Now, since we are now going to be mainly, at least till the time our own domestic cell capacities stabilize over by FY 2027, we'll be largely producing most of our modules in-house, and but they will be impacted because of the increase in the cell costs. But obviously, it will not be to the extent of 2 to 4 cents because a part of the value addition also happens in the domestic market. But nonetheless, there will be some increase in price of the modules because there will be an increase in the cell cost.
And Mr. Majumdar, what is the dependence that we have on China when it comes to modules and cells? I believe there's a big dependence that we have, right?
Yes. Now, going forward, majority of the modules will be able to do in-house. But till the time the new cell capacity is stabilized, we'll be dependent to the extent about 80% for maybe a year or so.
Right. Okay. So 80% or for a year or so is what we're looking out for there in terms of a number.
But with these new cell capacities, I think that dependence will also be coming down. But having said that, even after that, we'll continue to be dependent on them for, wafers. Eventually, our plan is to go down to wafers and maybe at some stage polysilicon itself, as and when the market becomes big enough. But still, we'll be dependent on Chinese for wafers and cells. And apart from the main, components which go into this, there are also a lot of, these small chemicals, glass. Obviously, the plan is for us, India also to get into, ancillaries like glass and other things which go into manufacture. But for many of those ancillaries also, apart from the main cell component, there will be some dependence on China.
Sure. Some dependence will be there. That will continue. Mr. Agarwal, I want to know, are there any other taxes that these Indian manufacturers on import of solar panels specifically and cells that they're paying currently, and anything that is there on that front in terms of import duty or anything that we should be watching out for?
If you see the way India has decided in, I think, April 22 itself, they've increased the rate of customs duty on module to 40% and on cells to 25%, which in turn, I think the focus of the government was to ensure that the cells and modules are manufactured domestically. And that's why if you see ALMM anyways is in picture today, and ALCM is planned in 2026. I don't foresee that there will be a significant rate increase as far as the module and cell is concerned. But of course, over a period of time, as the government pushes the agenda for manufacturing of wafer ingots and polysilicon into the country, you can likely foresee some increase in duties in this particular area, which is wafer, cell, and polysilicon.
Okay. So take that point. Mr. Majumdar, come in on this. So what is the key takeaway? Is it a negative in the short term and it is something that we are preparing for the long term for the industry overall? Because still China continues to be the biggest producer of modules, chips, wafers, cells, you name it. And they have taken control of the entire value chain, right? So do you think this is a short-term negative, and over a longer period of time, the Indian segment, or in the Indian sector at least, will tend to benefit from this?
Yeah, I think you are right. In the short term, there is a negative, but in the long run, anyway, we would want to be, the government's intent is to make us, fully self-sufficient in the entire solar equipment chain. To that extent, these Chinese, the measures that the Chinese have taken will make Chinese exports more expensive, and to that extent, indirectly make Indian manufacturing more competitive. So in a way, it, gels well with, what India is planning to do anyway.
Okay, all right. So this short-term setback that we are seeing, but overall it's a positive. Mr. Agarwal, last question before we let go of this discussion. You said it is applicable for existing projects as well, right? So anybody who has entered into a contract and looking at a supply from China will have to pay at a higher cost. What does it do to the contracts now?
So typically, if you see, and I'll just give an example, someone has placed an order for 2 gigawatt of modules and say 1 gigawatt has come before December 1. For them, the rebate of duty applicable is 13%, whereas for the future ones, which is coming after December 1, say 1 gigawatt is coming after December 1, there the rebate has reduced to 9% from 13%, which in turn means that the Chinese manufacturer will pass on that particular burden to the Indian IPP, which in turn increases the cost of generation of electricity. The only point before I leave, I think the point which I want to specifically highlight is that the step taken by China is towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat policy of the government as well. It will surely help the overall Indian solar manufacturers in the long run. Maybe in the short run, there's some impact on the costs.
Okay, so a step taken by China is helping India. So good going for the solar industry, at least, of course, going forward. Thank you so much, gentlemen, Mr. Agarwal, Mr. Majumdar, for joining in with your insights and making sense of this move that has come by. It was scaring the street a little, but looks like it's a short-term negative, but in the longer term, it serves the purpose of the industry as well. With that, we'll do one thing. We'll slip into a short break. Up next, we'll get you exclusive excerpts from our conversation with the CEO and co-founder of Zepto as the company raises $350 million domestically in the largest ever for an Indian startup.